I have many people come to me when they are suffering from anxiety or stress or some kind of tension. And I just wanted to share that I was that way too for many years. And when I look back, I know I was that way because I was not following my truth. My body was telling me that I was not doing what was my real purpose in life. I was not doing what brought me joy. I was actually living a life and making choices based on really giving myself up to another person and thinking I had to do that to feel loved. But some of the things that really helped me come back to myself are very untraditional. And I would love you to try to find out what is it that brings you back to your truth. And so some of these things were, I went kayaking. I went kayaking in the most beautiful place in South Australia. We call it the Coorong, where there is literally nothing but beautiful water. On the other side of the sand hills is the ocean, so it's inland waters. And you can kayak and not see a soul except for pelicans and birds and maybe occasionally a fishing boat going past. And kayaking and then camping on the shores and walking through the sand and finding beautiful spaces to be in silence and with nature and be with myself. And that was so enriching. And so I did lots of beautiful things like that. I also went on an amazing walk in the middle of Australia. I walked a songline with an amazing group of people led by Dr. John Broomfield from New Zealand, who wrote the book Multiple Ways of Knowing. And he and an Indigenous group in the middle of Australia guided us to walk a traditional Indigenous songline. The story of the Parenti lizard. And as we walked with this Indigenous family, we connected to ourselves, we connected to the earth, we connected to ancient wisdom. We noticed when we felt an energy or some sort of message coming from the land through us. And we shared and explored and played and discovered new things about learning about ourselves, our connection with the spirit world, our connections with ancient wisdom and the land. I also created. I took up mosaicing and I loved it. What I loved is learning how to be really practical. I went and I read books and I went to, in Australia we have Bunnings, and I learned about tiling and glues and grouting and all these really practical things. So it wasn't just the creative design, it was also the practicality. And I started with a mosaic of a table. There was an old stone table. And it was really interesting because for me, I'm very kinesthetic. And I started drawing a design visually on a piece of paper, but I couldn't quite get it. So in the end, I just decided the colours that I wanted. And I went and found old tiles from shops that were cheap. I went to an amazing glass artist and asked if I could buy some of his broken glass from his workroom. And I went and pulled all his scrap glass and looking for the colours that I felt attracted to. And I would come to him with a box and say, here, I'd love to buy this box of scrap glass. And he would say, yes, that's a couple of dollars. And I would take it home. And I started placing the tiles on this table without gluing them, just placing them. And just with my body moving and picking up a tile and placing it totally randomly, a pattern came. And I loved the pattern. I thought, right, that's the pattern for this table. And so then I drew it out and then I drew it on the table and started mosaicing and made this beautiful table. And then I decided to take on something even bigger, an outside wall, which was a couple of metres high, about 4 metres long, on one side, and on the other about a metre wide, but still a couple of metres tall. So it was a big retaining wall outside a house on this, and it was visible on the street. And I did invite somebody to join me and help me, and another artist. And I did do a very sketchy design, and a mermaid came, which was just beautiful, was on the seafront. And then she guided me to, in fact, do it on mesh inside the house, and then we would install it, just like when you buy tiles, like mosaic tiles, and they're on a sheet of mesh, and then you place them on a wall. So I bought this huge piece of mesh, and I glued it together, and we drew this beautiful mermaid and the sea and the waves. And then, because it was so huge, I invited my friends to come and join me. So we had this most amazing community experience, this bonding, where people could come. And I know, like Sophia did the tail. I know which people did which bits. There was on the seafront side, there was the number, and there was, if you imagine that with waves, often we think that there's a horse riding the waves. So I had a horse in the mosaic, and Sophia did the tail, and my sister did a wave. You know, so there are all these different people who've done little parts of this mosaic, and I felt like I was putting myself together every time I picked up a piece of glass or a tile and I placed it on the mesh. And then we had a great big installation day where we installed this beautiful mermaid, 2 mermaids in fact, and I will show you a picture of that. So I took up art, and I also took up play. I joined a group called Interplay, which is international and global, and I went on and did the life practice program. I trained to be a leader in Interplay, and Interplay is all about freedom, spontaneity. It's about letting yourself play just like a child, letting yourself play with your voice, letting yourself play with stories, letting your body move freely. And I do think that so much of our world, we've been taught to control things. We've got this myth about control. And then, of course, if we've got any fears or insecurities, anxieties, we do try to control the world to feel safe. But in fact, we get the complete opposite. We get more anxiety and more nervousness. So the freer you become, believe it or not, the more space there is inside to actually feel good. So I really encourage you to start playing, to start being spontaneous, to start letting go. And Interplay, we go, we let go of things. And what's interesting is that I still know when I am controlling something, because I notice my body and I get a pain in my neck and my shoulder that goes down to my arm whenever I feel I'm controlling my life or controlling what I'm doing. And so I can notice that and go, oh, what is it that I'm controlling at the moment? How can I let that go, give my body a shake, let that go, and start to give myself freedom to trust and evolve and go with the flow of life. So they're just a few things that I did, and I really encourage you to do something that you are called to. Think of things that you love when you were a child. Think of things that you have forgotten about that you loved, and whether they're art, nature, science, adventure, travel, whatever it is, I encourage you to take it up for the pure bliss of coming back to yourself, coming back to your senses and trusting yourself and connecting with yourself and your soul. And I would love you to tell me what you start doing and how that starts making you feel more freer in life. So love to you all, and I'll see you next time.